Dark fantasy is one of the most popular subgenres of fantasy across all known mediums, but especially anime and manga. Works in this subgenre often feature themes of horror meant to disturb and frighten the audience. It amalgamates these themes with fantasy in a grim, dark setting, which evokes a sense of dread in the audience. The anime that immediately pops into your head upon hearing this, we're sure, is probably Berserk, but that's not the topic of our video today. We're here today to discuss another well-known and beloved anime and manga in this subgenre called Claymore. Written and drawn by mangaka Norihiro Yagi, the man behind the award-winning one-shot manga Undead Man, Claymore has established itself as one of the best dark fantasy anime and manga of all time. It was first published in the monthly Shonen Jump magazine on June 6, 2007. After the magazine's closure, it resumed publication in the new magazine Jump Square until its end on October 4, 2014. With a total publication history of 13 years. An anime adaptation would soon follow under Madhouse Studios, which would take the first 11 volumes of the manga and animate them over 24 episodes with a slightly different ending. Claymore follows the story of Claire, a genetically engineered warrior created by an enigmatic group simply called the Organization to combat monsters that feed on the innards of human beings called the Yoma. Claymores are a female-only warrior group, and at any given time, there are 47 of them active. They are a hybrid of Yoma and humans, giving them unnaturally long lifespans, enhanced physical attributes, and the ability to channel their Yoki energy for various purposes. Yoki is an energy concept similar to ki energy found in other manga and anime. It's a special energy that is accessible only to the Yoma and Claymores, as the latter is a hybrid. They are largely ostracized and feared by the society they protect, as many view them as mutants and witches. They are only tolerated by the larger society because without them, they'd have no defense against the Yoma. These monstrous creatures are the apex predators of this world. Having superhuman attributes and senses combined with their ability to transform into regular humans, even the lowest tier Yoma is capable of decimating an entire town on its own. The most powerful of them, called the Abyssal ones, are basically left alone even by the Claymores, and hunting them is considered suicide. There is, however, more than what meets the eye regarding these monsters, as their relationship with the Claymores is fleshed out as the series goes on. The audience is taken on a wild ride along with the characters in a world filled with mystery, deceit, and vengeance. These warriors' very notions of reality is challenged, and deep and dark secrets regarding their origins and true purposes are revealed. In this video, we'll talk about the beautiful, powerful, and tragic defenders of mankind, the Claymores. From their origins, powers, abilities, and anatomy, we shall leave no stone unturned. By the end of this video, we hope we'll have convinced you to go pick up the anime and give it a shot, and if you've already read or watched Claymore, there might still be a few things in here you may have missed. Regardless, let's get right into this video as we celebrate one of the best dark fantasy series out there. What are the origins of a Claymore? A Claymore is created by the Organization by embedding a Yoma's flesh and blood into the body of a prepubescent young girl. The surgery itself is considered harrowing and inhumane, with not all candidates coming out of it alive. The candidates that do survive are left forever scarred from their chest to their nether regions, which, despite their incredible healing factor, never heal and need to be constantly sutured up. We're never given a proper reason for this, but we can speculate that since this is an unnatural conjunction of two polar opposite species that results in the creation of a being that's a hybrid, these wounds are the price that nature exacts in exchange for the affront committed against it. Besides the fact that the candidates are all female, they all share a bond of trauma. This is because the girls chosen are usually orphaned due to Yoma's attacks and hold a deep-seated hatred toward the beings. Others might have been abandoned and even purchased from their families. We know this to be true as the Organization acquired a number of twins for their experiments in their bid to create their own version of abyssal beings that they could control. These children have nowhere to turn to and are left at the mercy of the Organization, which not only alters them physically, but also brainwashes them to become their extremely obedient agents. These young girls are then put through extensive training, which is exceptionally brutal, before they're combat ready. They are initially trained to wield their greatswords by using practice swords for about a year or so. After many other different types of training, including covert ops, they are eventually subjected to a final examination. In this exam, they are divided into teams of 5 and told that it's a group battle. The impression given is that it's a battle between the groups, but secretly, a Yoma is released into the fray. This is to test not only their combat prowess, but also survival instincts, teamwork, and their attitude in a life-threatening scenario. The test has a high mortality rate, as seen during Claire's time, with only 2 out of the total 10 participants surviving. Those who show potential or signs of power are then promoted and given a unique emblem to represent them and a rank to showcase their power and standing amidst their peers. If a warrior falls in battle, someone is immediately brought in to fill the hole that they left. The warrior ranked below the former Claymore is promoted, or someone the organization feels worthy of that rank is brought in to fill the space. This is what happened in the case of Priscilla becoming the new number 2 despite being fairly new, and de-ranking Irene, or Eilina in the anime, and the others in the process. The ranking is done arbitrarily by the organization, but usually it's a reflection of the Claymore's prowess. The number 1 ranked warrior of the organization is usually considered the greatest of her generation. Throughout the series, the organization tries to keep creating new and improved versions of Claymores. For example, the twin Claymores Alicia and Beth, where one is supposed to serve as an anchor for the other to safely awaken through their shared consciousness, or Clarissa, who, with her darker hair, was considered a failed experiment. Even Claire, the protagonist of the story, was considered one such failed experiment due to the nature of her origin, making her an anomaly amidst anomalies. Instead of having the flesh and blood of Yoma embedded into her like most warriors, she instead has the flesh and blood of another warrior called Teresa put inside her instead. This made her not a half-breed, but a quarter-breed, leading her to be extremely weak at the beginning of the story. An interesting fact is that Claymores weren't all females to begin with. The first generation of these hybrid warriors were in fact men. They were, however, quickly abandoned by the organization due to their unstable nature. They were prone to awakening more easily and going berserk. The act of awakening is likened to that of an orgasm, and thus the organization deemed men too weak to resist this, instead choosing women as candidates from thenceforth. Thus, by manipulating the rage and vulnerability in these young children, the organization created the Claymores. It would all come to an end, however, when the Claymores would finally rebel under the leadership of Miria the Phantom and overthrow the organization. What do Claymores look like? The Claymores, while retaining their unique individual features, also have a number of common features that they share. Due to the gruesome surgery that they are put through in order to attain their powers, quite a lot changes physically for them. The surgery causes a loss of pigmentation in their hair, giving them hair that varies in different shades of blonde. Their eyes undergo a transformation as well, with the irises changing to a silver color, earning them the moniker of the silver-eyed witches from the common folk. Their skin becomes extremely pale as well, and some, like Irene and Ophelia, even feature elf-like ears. Claymores also have a permanent wound from their chest to their mons pubis, which is stitched up. The wounds, despite their insane regeneration abilities, cannot be healed no matter what, as we mentioned before. The Claymores all wear uniforms while on duty, the basic design remaining the same and slight variations having been made to the armor over various generations. Their torso is covered by a skin-tight, full-sleeved white tunic and a false neck emblazoned with their personal symbol. They have a layered pauldron over their shoulders and a cape over their back. Their arms are equipped with van braces upon their wrists, and their lower half is covered by skin-tight pants of the same material with a fold on top. They are seen wearing sabatons on their feet. The design of this armor, as stated earlier, varies from generation to generation. Some Claymores also have special modifications made to their uniforms to symbolize their status or accommodate their unique abilities. The twin Claymores that we mentioned earlier in the video, Beth and Alice, both are seen donning a fully black outfit complete with armor of the same color. The Claymore by the name of Helen has a special arm covering made out of a black material that supports her ability to extend her limbs. Coming to their more basic physical appearances, most Claymores are slender and tall, with an average height being about 170 to 180 centimeters, according to the Claymore databooks 1, 2, and 3. Their age also generally appears to be somewhere between their late teens to mid-20s. This is because after reaching a certain age, all Claymores stop aging and retain their youth for the rest of their lives. It's not exactly clear what age this phenomenon sets in. Their appearance also drastically changes according to the amount of Yoki energy they're using. Starting with their eyes and facial features to their body, they start appearing more and more like Yoma. You can't talk about their appearance without mentioning the weapons from which they derive their nickname. We're talking about gigantic swords that these ladies swing about as if they were made of wood. The swords all look the same and are built of the same material, but have their personal emblem etched on the blade. The name Claymore isn't just their official name, it's given to them by the common folk. In reality, just like the organization that birthed them, they don't have an official name for their group. What is the life of a Claymore like? The life of a Claymore is, as you'd expect, filled with danger both from monsters outside and the ones within. Although they appear to be immortal, most Claymores don't live past their 30s, no matter how powerful they are. There are exceptions to this rule, such as Eilina, Claire, and the other ghosts of the North who managed to escape death by deserting the organization and suppressing their Yoki. Starting with their primary duties, each ranked warrior is given unofficial jurisdiction over one of the 47 districts of the island they're based on. Their rank is a matter of great pride to them, as it acts as a symbol of their strength within their peer group. They constantly seek to upgrade their rank by getting stronger. The respect they show their compatriots also often depends on the rank they hold, with the lower ranks shown little to no respect, and often instead made into objects of ridicule and disrespect. Claymores mostly operate separately under the guidance of the organization. They all take directives from the agents in black who, in turn, get their orders from a council of men that run the organization. It is, however, not uncommon to witness them work as a party to hunt powerful beings, such as the Awakened Ones, or a high-ranked member of their organization that's gone rogue. The Claymores, however, don't always work out of philanthropy, and their services are usually purchased by an individual or a settlement by paying the organization. It is because of this rule that Claymores are not allowed to break their cardinal rule of not interfering in human matters, no matter how much it goes against their morality. The penalty for breaking this rule is death, as we find out when Teresa slaughters the bandits that look to harm a young Claire, and the organization sends her fellow warriors after her to take her head. This also highlights the expendable nature of Claymore life, as even the most powerful warrior in the organization's history, like Teresa, is not beyond being sacrificed. All Claymores are conditioned to be obedient soldiers who do not question the dubious motives of the organization. They do this by manipulating their emotions and exposing them to their propaganda. In fact, the organization actively seeks to dispose of warriors who they find hard to control and begin to question their methods. They do so by sending them to impossibly hard missions with minimal chances of survival, like when Claire, along with 24 other Claymores, was sent to the northern region of Alphonse to defend the city of Pita against an army of 27 awakened beings. This was a death trap set by the organization to get rid of these women, while at the same time taking down as many of the Awakened Ones as they could in the process, hence killing two birds with one stone. To put things into context, just to hunt one awakened being, a team of Claymores is assembled with one, if not a couple of single-digit ranked warriors in the party. And these guys had to face off against 27 of these monsters, who were led by an awakened Rigaldo, the second-ranked warrior from the first generation of male warriors. Not to mention, the army that they were taking on belonged to the abyssal one called Isley of the North. Only the 10th ranked warrior of the Claymore through the generations has a very different life from that of the rest of her sisters. The 10th rank has traditionally been given to the warrior with the strongest sensory manipulation technique. They can interfere with their target's senses by blurring their enemy's vision, and through their Yoki manipulation, they can create hallucinations and disturb their target's depth perception, making their attacks miss. The only rank 10 warrior we see in the series is named Raftala, and she's powerful enough to even affect the former rank 6 warrior Miria. To further demonstrate her power, she's able to manipulate the attacks of the 3 newborn abyssal ones, Cassandra, Hysteria, and Roxanne, even when severely injured. They're trained by the organization to be their trump card and are considered to be their anti-warrior failsafe. The number 10s do not participate in the regular Claymore missions and are usually based in the organization's quarters. Her identity is a closely guarded secret. One of the most closely guarded secrets of the organization is the fact that the awakened beings are actually not just merely powerful Yoma, but the result of their warriors finally losing control and transforming. To take care of this internally, each warrior is given a black card with their unique symbol embossed in red on it, which is stored in the hilt of their blade. When a Claymore senses her time as a human is coming to an end, she sends her black card to someone she's close with amongst her peers. This is their way of asking the person to meet them in a designated area and euthanize them before they lose their humanity. To receive a black card from somebody is considered a great honor and a symbol of acknowledgement and trust. The life of a Claymore is one in which most of them don't have any choice regarding the life they lead. Their childhood is marred by the loss of their family and the horrifying experiments they're subjected to. As a young adult, they're thrust into a cruel world that reluctantly accepts their existence, performing a thankless job where they can easily be replaced. Their only choices are to die in combat or turn into a monstrosity. Deserting the organization is punishable by death if discovered, and they must turn their blades against their own sisters if they do. With the aforementioned Claymore Rebellion, this way of life for these mighty warriors would finally come to an end, as they would reclaim their destiny for the first time and be able to live as they wished. What are the powers and abilities of a Claymore? Being trained from birth to be exceptional killers added to the fact that they are half human and half Yoma. They have a range of abilities and attributes that far exceed that of a normal human being. It's said that the greater the Claymore's rage against the Yoma, the greater their potential power. These are the powers and abilities of these silver-haired warriors that we know of. Yoki Energy Reserves. It would be impossible to discuss the powers and abilities of a Claymore without discussing the Yoki energy reserves possessed by these warriors. Consider Yoki the fuel that runs the engine of a Claymore. The highest tier of warriors have the largest Yoki reserves that they channel to enhance their technique and gain immeasurable strength. This, therefore, leads to a direct correlation between the amount of Yoki a warrior has and their strength as a Claymore. This is, of course, discounting the fact that without proper control, having a large Yoki supply is useless. However, there has been no warrior with such a large Yoki that they haven't been able to control it properly for the most part. Even the #1 warrior of the first generation of men only awakened of his own volition after all his comrades had awakened first. This is why, on the rare occasion that a rank 1 warrior does awaken, it's considered a calamitous event for which there's no counter, at least in the early days of the series. By the end of the series, the organization does devise weapons to take them out more easily, but the power levels of abyssal ones cannot be downplayed. Priscilla, the series' main antagonist, was considered to have a Yoki reserve so large that she was one day expected to overcome even Teresa. When she awakened, she became a being that transcended even the powers of the abyssal ones. Yoki energy is, however, not always used for destructive purposes. It has other functions as well. This Yoki reserve also aids in restoration, and if a Claymore runs out of this energy, she's unable to regenerate, reattach, or heal their body. Overall, their Yoki reserve plays a massive factor in their survival and power, as it's tied to every single ability and power that they have. Yoki Control and Limited Awakening. All Claymores have a reserve of Yoki energy due to them having Yoma flesh and blood with them. However, the size of their Yoki reserves varies, with the more powerful warriors having infinitely more. Regardless of how much Yoki they have, all Claymores can access this energy and release it to grant them a major boost in power. At 10% of release, their eyes lose their usual silver color and turn yellow and develop cat-like slits. As they increase their Yoki output by 30%, their facial features start changing, taking on more animalistic features and developing jagged rows of teeth. When they hit the halfway mark of their awakening at 50% release, they begin to look even less human and their musculature increases along with their pale skin changing to a different color as they begin to lose their sense of self. Upon hitting the 80% threshold, they begin to resemble a Yoma and their humanity is almost lost for good. At this point, their body parts also begin developing specialized features to augment their existing abilities or compensate for their weaknesses. It's widely agreed that once a Claymore hits this stage, there's no going back for her. There have, however, been some cases of higher level Claymores who have greater Yoki control that have been able to reverse this transformation. This is what is known as limited/partial awakening. The only known case of a low-level Claymore being able to transform back is Claire, who was able to retain her humanity and revert the changes thanks to her comrades, especially Jean. They're also able to awaken only certain body parts, such as their limbs, to augment their fighting style. The former 3rd ranked warrior, Irene, uses this to create and enhance her signature move called the Quicksword, which is a sword that allows the user to swing her sword at such speeds that it's invisible to the naked eye. She achieves this technique by only awakening her arm and channeling all of her Yoki into it. This technique, like any other partial awakening technique, is full of risk, as there is a high chance that one will lose control and fully awaken. If this happens, as you might have guessed by now, it will result in the creation of an awakened being. Higher level Claymores have greater control over their Yoki, and like Irene, they can use it to create signature fighting styles that make them formidable foes. However, relying on this takes a huge toll on their humanity, eventually leading to their awakening regardless. Healing and Regeneration. All Claymores are able to heal and regenerate themselves to an extent or with the assistance of their fellow warriors. They do this once again by channeling their Yoki through the injured parts of their body. We've seen defensive type Claymores like Deneva who are able to regenerate entire limbs from scratch. She's also able to heal wounds that would normally be considered fatal to others. They're able to reattach their limbs, channeling Yoki in between the two severed parts. Claymores can also use their Yoki to mend the wounds and attach the limbs of others. We see the extent of healing possible through this method when Miria seemingly returns from the dead after being hacked to pieces with her fellow Claymore healing her wounds. She makes a return, sporting only a cross-shaped scar on her face. It's to be noted that the offensive type Claymores are less proficient when it comes to healing and regeneration. They need additional help when it comes to healing grievous injuries and are extremely slow when it comes to self-healing relatively small injuries. It's widely speculated that one of the reasons that the Claymores don't age is because their healing factor doesn't allow the cell generation process to slow down as it normally would. Due to this ability, Claymores can outlive most humans and have extended lifespans and eternal youth, which all add to their mystique. Expert Swordsmen. Amidst the plethora of skills displayed by these beautiful warriors, you could be forgiven for forgetting that they're also expert swordsmen. Their weapon of choice was the gigantic Claymore. It's a wondrous sight to behold the Claymores utilizing their namesake weapons in a number of different ways. Claymores like Noelle, Undine, Rachel, and Deneva prefer a much more straightforward technique, relying on their brute strength to swing their weapon and overpower their enemy. There are others like Irene, Ophelia, and Cassandra who rely on finesse or unique techniques to have created their own signature techniques. Deneva and Undine also wield these massive claymores, creating their own unique style. The author has done an expert job of giving an illusion of variety, even though there's only a single type of weapon, by adding all of these different fighting styles. While there have been several top-ranked warriors in their history with some very overwhelmingly strong techniques, none have ever been as devastating as Teresa of the Faint Smile, widely considered to be the strongest claymore to ever exist. Unlike certain claymores that we mentioned earlier who were known for a certain attribute that made their sword style strong, Teresa did not stand out from the crowd due to this reason. She was just overwhelmingly powerful, stronger than Noelle and faster than Sophia, the two 4th and 5th ranked claymores of her generation. This was without her even releasing 10% of her powers. She was the epitome of the potential of a claymore. The sword techniques of the claymore are very different from those used by regular mortals. Their techniques are specifically designed to combat Yoma and awakened beings. This is made evident when the Claymores comment on Raki's sword style, which resembles their own, despite him being a man and not a claymore. It was taught to him by Isley to prepare him for a fight against Priscilla. This doesn't mean that their technique is useless against humans, as they're able to overpower the strongest of regular folk with ease and defeat them. Despite all their powers and attributes, their combat style largely revolves around the sword. Hence, it's no surprise that they're masters of the weapon. Yoki Awareness and Suppression. All claymores have their own unique Yoki aura that they're able to give out. Amongst them, there are those who are exceptional at reading this aura, like Teresa, Galatea, and Tabitha. While all claymores are able to sense Yoki, these three stand out the most and show what a true master of this power can achieve. Teresa is able to sense even the most minute flow of Yoki within the body of a claymore or an awakened being, granting her foresight about every single move they're going to make before it happens. This makes her nigh invincible and a nightmarish foe to go up against. Galatea, on the other hand, is capable of sensing the Yoki of other creatures from an exceptional distance, making her perfect for espionage or scouting. Her ability to read Yoki is so immense that she can even sense the moods of the beings she's reading as if they were standing next to her. Tabitha, one of the survivors of the Northern Wars, is also able to sense Yoki at the same level as Galatea after the time skip. This awareness can be overcome to a degree by individuals suppressing their Yoki. This is, however, no easy task, as it requires exceptional control over their Yoki and is usually something only higher-ranked warriors are capable of. There was a workaround for this, however. If one took the Yoki suppressing pill, it produced the same effect but for a limited period of time and wasn't as effective. The warriors that stand out particularly in this regard are Rafaela, Priscilla, Irene, and the 7 surviving warriors of the Northern Wars: Miria, Claire, Tabitha, Cynthia, Deneva, Helen, and Yuma. Priscilla was exceptional at this during her Claymore days, making her an extremely tough opponent against Teresa, who relied on reading the Yoki flow of her opponent's body in combat. Suppressing one's Yoki allowed the individual to vanish from the organization's radar and was mostly used by deserters not to be found, like Irene in the 7 Survivors or 7 Ghosts. It could also be used to provide stealth and an element of surprise in their attacks, as used by Priscilla, Tabitha, and Rafaela. These skills are a testament to the Claymore's power, as they require super strong control over one's Yoki. Are Claymores able to reproduce? If not, why not? Due to the extreme nature of the surgery that turns them into hybrids with Yoma flesh and blood embedded within them, it's highly unlikely that a Claymore could ever reproduce. And that's not to even mention the wound from the surgery that's never really healed and held together by stitches. This wound extends all the way from the Claymore's chest to where her reproductive organs would be, adding more empirical evidence to their inability to reproduce. Also, just by the very nature of their persona amongst the general populace as witches and hybrids, it would be very difficult for them to find mates. Even if they did find someone, it's more than likely they'd be frightened away at the sight of their mutilated body. On top of that, the organization would never allow Claymores to have children because that would mean the organization losing its control over its monopoly in creating these warriors. On top of that, the organization demands unwavering loyalty from their warriors. If a Claymore has a baby, their loyalty could easily be compromised due to their attachment to their offspring. The organization would never make the mistake of designing them to allow this to be the case. There is also no explicit information about any of the Claymores ever giving birth or getting pregnant in the series. What is the extent of a Claymore's immortality? Claymores would, for all intents and purposes, be immortal if they merely existed in a world other than their own. What we mean by this is that they are immortal in the sense that they don't age and have extended lives that far exceed that of mortals. We see the awakened beings and abyssal ones from the first generation of warriors still around even several hundred years later. It is, however, not clear if this lifespan they enjoy is because they're awakened, as most Claymores don't have a life expectancy that exceeds their late 20s due to professional hazards. We can't test this theory out properly. They're also capable of healing even the most grievous wounds and even regenerating lost limbs in some cases. However, not all Claymores are able to do this with the same efficiency, especially the offensive warriors. The defensive warriors, of course, have a natural affinity towards healing and regeneration. They can also act as healers and regenerate even delicate organs like eyes and viscera. While all Claymores are able to reattach severed limbs, some, like Deneva, can outright regenerate new body parts, though this puts a considerable strain on their Yoki reserves. The true purpose of a Claymore. For most of the series, we, along with the characters of the series, are led to believe that the purpose of a Claymore is to protect the people from the Yoma on the island that the story is set in. The story is presented in such a way that the audience mistakes the island to be the only landmass in Claymore's universe. It's revealed by Miria to the audience and her fellow Claymores that their life and the world they lived in were nothing but fabricated lies. They were, in fact, mere experiments, and the island was a test site to develop new weapons for a nation in a far-off land that was engaged in a long war against superhuman creatures that resembled the awakened beings called the Asarakam or Dragonkin. The Claymores were mere test subjects to create super soldiers and creatures who would be able to aid in the war effort. This is an earth-shattering revelation, and it's one of the most diabolical reveals in all of anime and manga because, as an audience, you can feel the world shattering around you just like for the characters in the series, as everything you believe to be real is thrown out the window. It's also revealed that the Yoma were engineered by combining the flesh of the Asarakam in their base and adding it to a regular human. In fact, a lot of the traumatic experiences experienced by the Claymores were engineered by the organization by purposely letting loose Yoma and awakened beings to their target's location. This was simply because it would make it easier to recruit orphans that no one cared about, and their vulnerable state due to the trauma would leave them open to manipulation, making them ideal test subjects and obedient agents. Everything from the creation of the Abyssal Ones to the destruction of the lives of thousands of young children was done to fuel the machines of war. The organization is eventually overthrown by Miria after she rallies all the Claymores against them, forever putting an end to their nefarious activities. What is the Claymore Rebellion? Sometime after the 7 survivors of the Northern Campaign moved to the holy city of Rabona, Miria, the Phantom, embarks on a solo mission to overthrow the organization. The secrets of the organization had been revealed to her by the agent in black known as Rubel, who was secretly a spy from another nation after she began investigating the organization following her friend's death. Upon arriving at the organization's headquarters, she quickly cuts down all the Claymores present single-handedly. She even proves a match for the new and improved version of Alice and Beth, the 2 soul-linked twins who are the organization's secret weapon. Their ability allows one to fully awaken while the other acts as an anchor to retain her humanity so that she returns to normalcy once their mission is complete. Miria is, however, soon overwhelmed by the powers of the number 10, Raftella, who makes her hallucinate her friend Hilda, allowing the Claymores to regroup and hack her to pieces. This is eventually revealed to be a ruse, however, because she's seen back and alive not long after, and this time she isn't seen alone. The Claymores, having noticed that she hadn't killed any of them, are moved by her warrior spirit and kindness and decide to join her, including Raftella. As chaos ensues, the organization releases their ultimate weapons, Abyss Eaters, against the Claymores, followed by the 3 reanimated former number 1 warriors, Hysteria the Elegant, Cassandra the Dust Eater, and Roxanne of Love and Hate. They would further go on to awaken and turn into new abyssal beings, but would begin fighting with each other, with Cassandra devouring the others and leaving the battlefield. The warriors would go on to storm the headquarters, and Raki would help them rescue the young Claymore candidates. Miria would claim the head of the organization's elder, Rimudo, finally ending the organization's reign and establishing their freedom. Marvelous videos! The tale of the Claymores is one of sadness, tragedy, and their ultimate triumph, even as their reality collapses around them. It is poetic that the girls whose destiny the organization manipulated so hideously would be the cause of its downfall. From their scarred psyche and their body, Claymores are some of the strongest and most resilient characters ever written. Despite their enormous power and distinct, almost inhuman features, the show does a remarkable job of reminding us that these are still young, impressionable, and traumatized girls who are flawed and human. Even if larger society considers them witches who are cold and unfeeling, they share bonds of sisterhood, camaraderie, and love for things that they hold dear. Their never-ending struggle against a world that's set against them, from the monsters they hunt to the ungrateful people they protect and their creators who deceive and control them, is incredible to witness. The show expertly explores profound human themes of loss, mental illness, existential crises, and love. Thanks for sticking with us right to the end of this video, and we hope you enjoyed it. Claymore is available for viewing on Netflix, and we recommend you check it out. The manga for the series is more fleshed out, and we would definitely recommend that as well. Be sure to check out more anime and manga-related content on our channel as we cover a plethora of different series. And let us know what you thought about Claymore, and if we get enough of a response, maybe we'll do more videos on this series. This has been Wheezy249 signing off, but you can always find me on Twitch, and until next time, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.